A very good evening to you all. Welcome for the Future Ready Marketer webinar series conducted by the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. Thank you all for joining this fine evening. And as you all know, the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing is the apex body for Sri Lankan marketers, which was conducted by 1970, subsequently incorporated by an act of parliament in 1980. And whilst this recognizing it as a national body for marketing and a non-profit organization. So we as SLIM, we are mandated to uplift the marketing profession in Sri Lanka, thus providing marketing studies and conducting many national events and projects. SLIM is also governed by a council of management and executive committee headed by a president comprising of many professionals from numerous industries in an honorary capacity. With this, we actually take pride in organizing national events consecutively on an annual basis and which are basically popular among the Sri Lankan corporates and public alike. So with that, we have conducted today's webinar at the title of Eliminating Guesswork from Digital Marketing. With this series, we have been able to get on board today Mr. Udawatthe, who is also digital messaging experience and sales manager at HSBC Canada. So speaking about Nadheera started his self-learning in digital marketing from his days in the University of Sri and started with Rebels right after graduation. Then eventually he learned e-commerce at roomset.com before working at Ogilvy Digital Agency of Phoenix Ogilvy. One of the memories he cherishes his working is for basically Slim FE's Awards as the organizing committee. Afterwards, Nadheera started specializing in digital analytics and digital optimization whilst moving to Vancouver, Canada in 2013. He worked for Influential Corporation in British Columbia, and now he currently works at HSBC Canada as a digital experience messaging and sales manager. So with that, I would like to inform you all, Ms. Arus will be joining with us shortly. So, Nadheera, the platform is all yours.
Thank you, Damsit, for that introduction. I will share my slides to get started. I hope everyone is doing good. Damsit, are we good with the slides?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me start. I will first give a small introduction to the flow or the agenda. So I will be talking about why we have such a big digital transformation. I think you all know, and then what is this guesswork I'm talking about, where it comes from, and why eliminate it, how to do it using conversion rate optimization, that's CRO, and then what's A/B testing, that's part of conversion rate optimization. And then I'll talk about the process, a sample process that you can follow at your organization. I'll run through some optimization examples and ideas, and then we'll open up for Q&A at the end. And if you have any questions, feel free to send on the Q&A on Teams, and I will try to keep it very basic. But if you want advanced um, knowledge, please feel free to ask questions because I'm trying to address a bigger audience that are not very savvy in digital. Okay, now as we all know, we have we had COVID about 1.5 years ago, and with COVID, people had to stay at home and use digital channels to buy things, to find information, and that brought in a lot of digital transformation. Now, if I ask who led digital transformation of your company, it's not the CEO or the C level, or it's not your CTO or the technology team, it's not digital marketing team. It's actually COVID that brought in a lot of this uh, active users or sales, online sales, and all of those KPIs that you achieved in the last few years. And with that comes questions. How do we get more sales, or how do we improve our user experience, or how do we get more clicks? How can we increase the click-through rate on our ads? Now, all of those questions comes in when you're trying to, when you have this kind of a big transformation at once. And it's the same even if you don't have good sales, you still have these questions because we want to keep improving. And with that comes all of these guesses. Uh, if someone says, how do we improve our sales, or how do we increase our click rate? People will say, I guess we should change this button from click here to learn more, or I think that button should be green, not red. I think we should not show options, or I guess we should use a different photo. Now, these are all of those guesses that happen in the boardroom or in your meeting room. And this is not good because it creates politics, it creates fractions, but there is a better way. Um, if someone asks how to increase our sales, make the button red or change the photo, we can test all of those ideas. That's if someone says we should use a different photo, don't guess. We can test it in digital because everything can be tested and we have a lot of data. An example from Obama's campaign back in the day, they tested the same thing I talked about. If you want to use a different photo, they actually tested showing that 50% were sh- shown one on left and the other 50% one on right, and they had 19% increase in conversions when they tested this photo. So what I'm talking about is all of those guesswork about red or green, or show something or not show something. All of those ideas can be tested, and I'm going to explain the way to test it in the upcoming slides. Let's look at a sample conversion funnel. Um, these are all fake numbers put into explain. So if you have 100 potential customers on web and you spend $1,000 in ads, and now I'm using dollars because I'm from Canada, but it's different in Sri Lanka. That's okay. And then out of that, let's imagine 10 visits your website and one ends up buying your product. It can be reading your content as well, but if one ends up buying, that's how a sample conversion funnel looks like. Now, how can you increase that one person ending up buying? That's the big question in digital marketing. You can spend 2 times the budget and get show your ads to 200 people, so more people will visit your website and more will end up buying. But there's another way you can increase uh, conversions without spending more money, and that's by improving your ads, or we call it optimizing your ads at no cost. There are some resources involved, but you don't have a upfront budget. And then you can also improve the website. That's a big one, and that can drastically improve your conversion. So that's called conversion rate optimization. Those two things is called conversion rate optimization, and I'm going to talk mainly about improving the website, but the same principles and the process applies for your ads on Facebook or Google or any other platform. So that's called conversion rate optimization. Um, I'm going to next talk about how to build an optimization culture that eliminates guesswork. So when you build this culture, you will have a team that continuously optimizes your website, your ads, and removes any politics or any guesses or uh, assumptions from your uh, digital marketing. Now, I will quickly go through this. I don't want to go into details, but here's a process. You can take over a longer period of time, about 3 to 5 years in your organization. with people, process, and tools. When you enrich your team with these, you can get into a level where you are running with a lot of optimization tests and improvements into your ads and website. Now, I'll quickly run through the crawl stage. That's where you get to know digital analytics. You set up your um, analytics tool like Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, and then you do one-off reports, scheduled reports. You do some analysis with one person, and then you go into work stage where you have an optimization person who's doing pre-test, post-test reporting, and follows an optimization process that I'll explain later on in slides. And you can use tools like Optimizely, Adobe Target, Google Optimize, and Unbounce that can help you test one version to the other, like the example I showed in the Obama campaign. And then run stage, you move faster. Um, you can do more advanced things like personalization, auto targeting, auto optimization. There are many new concepts coming up. You can use tools like Power BI, Tableau, and the most recently famous tool called Looker from Google to create advanced reporting. Now that's a way to build a team that builds an optimization culture that can improve your performance on digital. Now I'll give a I'll run through the optimization to run through a like a optimization process that you can follow. It can change based on what kind of data available to you, what kind of websites, what kind of platforms, mobile apps you're trying to optimize. I'll give a quick introduction to A/B testing. We already talked about it in that example, but A/B testing is you're comparing two versions against each other to determine what's better. It can be multivariate testing as well. I'll show some examples where you uh, do ABC testing, or you can test so many other things if you have enough traffic. But I'll talk about that later on. An A/B testing example from Lululemon. Um, if you have seen most of the apparel sites, you have to select the size using a drop down, but you have it on screen that reduces 2 clicks to select the size that can increase your sales. It's just one example. I'll have more uh, examples in my future slides. Now, how to run an optimization process? You have these 4 steps: discovery, design, build, and then monitor and implement. I'll not go into details, but in discovery, you use a lot of data. It can be your analytics data. It can be coming from your exit surveys or frontline feedback like call center, live chat, and then you use computer research, computers similar to you, and then you do an ideation session with your stakeholders and your team to find more ideas, tests. So you don't do just one test. You look at your website overall, and it can be your ads as well, and you find out uh, a lot of other uh, ideas, and then you put all of those ideas together. So in one optimization effort, I don't look at just one test. I look at least 10, 15 ideas that I can test iteratively. And in step number 2, we have all of those ideas and we rank them by their impact complexity. There are so many frameworks that you can use. One of the frameworks is called PIL. You prioritize using potential, impact, uh, labor, how much effort it needs, and love within your organization. Like some ideas are more loved by your senior leadership, and then you can test that to gain more support. And then you prioritize those activities, and you do test mockups. I mostly use PowerPoint, but you can use some advanced tools like InVision app that can show the user experience better. And then you do a team discussion and make sure everything is in place, and then you get stakeholder buy-in if you're testing for a different team or a product team. And once that's all done, we get the test built in one of those tools like Google Optimizely, or Adobe Target. There are so many other tools like Unbounce, Visual Web Optimizer that you can use. All of them work really well. Some have their advantages over others. And then you get you the optimization specialist manages the entire process, obtains approval, gives heads up, all of that, and then we go into reporting where we make sure that the reporting is running and the data is captured for both variants. Now I'll go into what happens after running a test or a series of tests. You implement the winning variations permanently, and you expand your hypothesis to test more things. I'll quickly run through without going into details. Tests for learnings, not just for lift. So some tests fail. That's a given. That's okay to fail because we learn from every failing test. Um, if you have a failed test, you can segment your results by different audiences, and you can find out sometimes in a losing test there could be a segment that's winning. Example, you run a test, let's for example's sake, let's say it's green versus red button, and let's say uh, it lost, the red button lost and green won. So we wanted red to win, but when we segment, we find out the certain geographic location. Let's, for the sake of it, say Colombo district reacted to it differently. They liked red instead. So you can run that variation only for that district, because that gives you more sales. Because in the end, what matters is how much more sales you can do. And ask yourself why your hypothesis didn't come out as the winner. And you can explore new hypotheses using the losing variation. So use your losing test to learn and build more winning tests. Now I'll run through some optimization ideas you can test on your website at places where you work. You can test a lot of small things like CTA colors, CTA copy. Now this sounds very small when you look at it, but it brings a lot of change. I'll show some examples where something like a CTA copy brought in about 20% more clicks. That means about 20% more sales, hopefully, and that's a big jump for a small effort of testing. You can test copy images like that, like in that example. You can do navigation, you can remove navigation, you can add navigation, you can change distractions, you can create uh, urgency using countdown timers, and you can show scarcity like limited time offer or only 3 items remaining kind of thing. And then you can do more advanced things like using statistics, like let's say 50% more people you know lost weight using this product. It's an example. And you can do upsell, cross sell. So if someone's ending up not buying, you can uh, cross sell something else or downsell something else. You can test if that works by using optimization or A/B testing. And you can run multiple campaigns with each other. You can do personalization, showing that you know about the visitor. And then you can do advanced things like not using a close button. So these are advanced things. There are more advanced things that you can do. Um, I will go into that, some of that in examples and Q&A. Now, some examples where this website for nursing had 336% increase by removing the navigation on top. So something simple because it removes distractions. All of those clicks are distractions, and when you remove that, they got 336% higher conversions. Some more details about the same test. I'll move on to the next example. That's 34% increase in form submissions just by making the logos gray. Now see how simple the change is and what kind of a increase it brought in sales or conversions. So when we talk about A/B testing, we always think it's ads on Facebook or Google or other platforms, or it's your website. But you can do a lot more. You can do it on mobile app. This is an example where an email subject line was tested. Example in this one, there's a 2.5% higher email open rate just by changing the subject line. So Merry Christmas got uh, about 2.5% higher clicks um, opens just because um, it's a different subject line. So that's how uh, a small change can bring in an uplift, and there's very less effort involved. And it can be on any platform like email, like your value-added messaging. If you have an online platform, all of them can be tested. It's not just ads or your website. Uh, this is that example I talked about, like changing copy on a button. We think it's really simple, but a simple change like that can give you 50% more sales. Example, in this case, there was the cart button and they tested add to cart and plus cart as variations, and add to cart brought in 49% more sales. So these are examples that you can use in your digital campaigns. And that's about uh, eliminating guesswork through conversion rate optimization. I talked about the optimization process that you can follow. I introduced what A/B testing is, and I gave some examples. And now we can go into Q&A. Any questions, feel free to put it in Q&A. Dams, do we have Q&A open?
Um, Mr. Duat, I think as of now we haven't received. So dear audience, if you all have any questions relating to what either A/B testing or regarding any digital optimization strategies you would like to ask, please feel free to jot it down in our Q&A section, and we can discuss and hopefully Mr. Udawatthe will have the right answers for you all. And yeah, just we'll take it up a minute and let's see how it goes.
Sounds good. Okay, looks like we have one question from Sanat. So can I answer the Damsit?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sanat is asking, these tests and processes would implement 100% near successful campaigns and perhaps tested over time. How could the same be adapted for a campaign which is short in duration, which would not have the luxury of, a rerun or being hosted for a long period? Yeah, yeah, we've had that kind of short campaigns before, and what we do is before running the campaign, You can use one of the calculators. So Adobe Target has a really good calculator that's public to find out if the campaign will bring in enough traffic to test. Example, some campaigns are really big, even if it's like a week or two or even a month, they have a lot of traffic that comes in, and that lets you test even multiple things at once. So if your campaign has enough traffic for testing, you can find out from the Adobe Target sample size calculator. Goo- Google for that and you'll find it. And if you have enough traffic, you can run multiple tests at the same time. So we do that if we see that we have enough traffic. And so let's say you have 10 ideas, you might be able to run about 4 ideas at once and at the same time, but we can make sure to separate them, segment using the campaign uh, platforms. Like if you're running it on Facebook, or if it's on your website, we can still make sure the optimization tool like Adobe Target or Google Optimize, they can segment your traffic to make sure you can run 4 or even 6 or even more tests simultaneously. It depends on your traffic and your conversion rate and the uplift you're expecting, but it's possible if you have a very high amount of traffic. Now, let's say you don't have that much traffic, then of course you can't adopt this process, because you will not get significant results. So in that case, what I would do is in that crawl stage I explained, you can use a simple analytics tool and monitor performance. You can make small changes and then find how it worked before and after. So you run something for 2 days and then you run something else for 2 days and find out if it worked. It's not perfect A/B testing, but it's the best you can do if you have a really quick campaign and if you want to learn. And if you're like, it's all about learning. It's not about applying it to a next campaign. But if you learn something in a campaign, maybe the same campaign, same offer will not run again, but you can still apply the same learnings to a new uh, campaign that will run in future. And it's all about learning what you can do. It's all about learning what you should not do. um, I hope I answered your question, Sanat. Okay, we have another question about how CRO could look into when it comes to device-based products or campaigns. So I know some of the tools like Adobe Target can still do testing in mobile devices. So you can use a tool that enables mobile screen testing to do that. And I hope you're asking about like a mobile app testing. You can still do that. And if your tool sometimes doesn't allow that kind of advanced testing, you can get help from your developers to manually implement the test. And you have to make sure your data is collected correctly. But if you're talking about mobile versus desktop in web, we do that almost every day because we see a lot of difference in conversion rate when it comes to mobile. And tools like Adobe Target, they support testing separately for mobile. So something you should always do when you look at analytics, always segment your performance by mobile versus desktop, because there's always a difference between the two, and sometimes it's like 1/10 of desktop for mobile. So always look at optimizing your mobile. Okay. Next question is something I really prepared for. So, what's your opinion on Sri Lankan business using advanced digital technologies? Is there room to improve? Yes, I asked in a couple of my forums. I asked. I have I have quite a bit of fellowship in Twitter. I asked, what do you think about the websites you use in Sri Lanka? Do you think there is room to improve, or there are good and bad? And what they said was mostly there are websites that have overcomplicated things. Um, they gave examples where some of the uh, mobile, the telco websites, or some financial corporations where you can explain things simply, but you overcomplicate it. And I've seen that in many websites across countries. Like, it's not just Sri Lanka. Even in Canada, we have websites that have too many um, too much information for what you're looking for, and you can really simplify things. You can really uh, make the journey simple. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement in removing those distractions and making it simpler. And I'll give one idea that uh, I've found success with is removing content. So uh, people convert if the page is clean and short and sweet. So try to if you have a web page that you want to improve, if you have a landing page, try to see the minimum information that you need to give, and test that, and that can bring you a lot of conversions, a lot of performance. So test removing content. I know it sounds really uh, funny, but when you reduce distractions, reduce unwanted information, you can uh, get more conversions. Hello, Arus.
Yes. Hi, Nadheera.
I hope everything's good.
Yes, all good. Thank you very much.
No
And
worries.
yeah, so I will. I think it was as always as expected. Hopefully, this added a lot of value for our viewers. So we'll jump into some discussions based on what talked us through today, Nadira. So I would like to invite the viewers, the audience who have joined us today online, to send in your questions, your clarifications, and doubts, or even your point of view or comments that you want to add to. So it was an insightful understanding. I'm sure how most of our viewers would have understood how eliminating guesswork from a digital marketing point of view would work. So we'll start with the discussion. I mean, I like to go back to the very simple illustration that you did in the beginning in terms of where to put, how do you make your investment work? Now, in this context, the question that you addressed, where do you really put your money? What do you think we should do? I mean, do you really put your money in bringing people, or you want to prioritize making use of those people who's coming in to the website? Which is, this dilemma is something that a lot of marketers find it difficult to figure out. I mean, should I get more people in? I want to invest a lot of money to bring more people, or to get more people to see my ad, or should I really not too much worry about it, but look after the people who's visiting my website? How do you really explain the priority between these two, Nadira, to begin with?
Thanks, Arus. Good question. So this is something that we think it's a binary answer, like it's one or the other. It's not. And I would never stop you from bringing more people in, but I think we prioritize making our platforms convert higher, because uh, that saves money for your budget, and that creates a better user experience, and people who will come will actually see that your websites work better for them. the user experience is better, and they will even do word of mouth recommendations, and that way you'll save a lot more of your marketing budget. So it's not one or the other, but first improve your website, improve the landing pages, improve the conversion funnel where they buy the product or
Right.
submit the form or find the information, and then bring in more people. And that way you're prioritizing your user experience, and you get more people by word of mouth and other, social media, and then you can improve your budget to get more sales, and that will work hand in hand.
So are you saying it's, I mean, if you are to prioritize, let's say, because Sri Lankan marketers, we don't have the liberty of having unlimited or infinity amount of budgets. When the marketer is given a project, they've always given a very limited budget. Now, and most of the time, as a limitation of the budgets or limited constraints on the budget, you might have to prioritize. Now, again, just to get more clarity to the marketers who have joined, does it mean that it's not worth to bring more people in unless you optimize? So that you're suggesting that you first focus on the web, ensure the experience is at least acceptable before you're bringing more people. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, yeah. Try to improve as much as possible with the time you have. Some campaigns, like the example with Sanat, it's a like a short-term campaign. But if you have time, improve your websites or your channels to the fullest. And these improvements, I'm not talking about like making drastic changes, but it can
Right.
be a simple improvement of like changing copy on your call to action from, let's say, learn more to, click here, just an example. But it can be small changes in the background color, or changes in headline, or changes in the explanation of your product. These small changes, like in the examples we saw in the slides, can bring in up to 50%, sometimes 300% more sales. So do that first and then bring in more people.
Right. Okay. So thank you, Nadheera. I think that makes more sense now. Now, when you're talking about digital marketing, there's one aspect that a lot of people discuss. Gone are the days that we spoke a lot about website. Today there is so much of different touch point. Can you explain in terms of, or maybe how do you see this? Now, you have on one side, you have this corporate websites or the brand website that you talk about. Then you also have multiple touch points in the digital media landscape. Like you have the social media accounts, you have your Facebook, you have your Instagram, then you have your LinkedIn page. Now, how do you see, I mean, what's your advice if people want to manage, if they want to have multiple touch points, how can they bring everything to look very consistent? Because I'm sure you would agree with me that no matter which touch point you have, no matter which digital platform you're operating, you need not to confuse your customer. You shouldn't be confusing your consumer. So what should be the key steps in ensuring there is consistency and there is some kind of an integrative approach in managing multiple touch points in digital landscape? What's your
Yeah.
advice on that?
Yeah, good question. So, like, this is one of the challenges that the optimization or the analytics teams have. When we bring in an idea, let's say change. I'll give a very simple example. Let's change button color from red to, let's say, gray, and then the brand team will come and say, our brand guidelines say it's red, we need to stick to it, we can't test this. And that's good. I think you're asking about like how to make sure everything's consistent. So before you test, have your brand guidelines ready, go through it, and make sure all of your tests align with the brand guidelines, or the look and feel that you have structured. And that will make sure that your experience for your customer is consistent across platforms, like social media, or across your devices, or across the websites, web pages that you manage. And out of that, there are lots of affiliates, lots of other sites that bring in traffic to our websites, that's okay. But make sure your brand teams make sure that the banners you place on those sites, everything is in one consistent um, framework.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So great advice, guys. Don't forget your brand guidelines. Don't forget your consistency. Don't forget to give the same experience and the look and feel. No matter which platform you go out with, go or reach out to your consumer. Don't mess up your key elements of your brand. That's the message that Nadheera is bringing you. Now, Nadheera, I just wanted to ask this question. You might get a little pissed off with me for asking this. Do really websites matter? Because gone are the days that you have to have a website. Today, every business can only operate on Instagram or just only on Facebook. Why do you need a website? What's your answer?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give. Yeah. So it's yeah, we're moving into places like Instagram or Amazon where you can sell products. The same concepts apply. I've seen a lot of examples where you can A/B test and you test your product sponsored listing on, let's say, Amazon or Alibaba or like whatever wherever you go. So these principles don't just apply to your website. It's for your Facebook, it's for your Google Ads, it's for anything where you're trying to sell online. The question, do websites really matter? I would say no, it doesn't matter anymore. Why you need a website is even if you're selling on a different platform, people will look up your brand or your name online, and you need something to show that you're credible. So even if you're selling on Instagram, or let's say you're selling on, I don't know, I'm giving a lame example, TikTok, you still need a website to show that you have a credible brand. And you can also sell at the same time on your website. That reduces that third party cost that you would pay to that other whatever vendor. So those are the two reasons why you need a website. One, credibility. Two, you can reduce your selling costs by having a website.
But
But
Nadir,
it doesn't really matter.
I can also argue that why not? Why you're saying there is no credibility? If someone sells on Facebook only, or if someone sells on Instagram only, you think it won't be looked at as credible source of sales?
It can be like, I've seen so many examples of like small, um, small bakeries, or like flower arrangements, or like small level. But when you want to scale up, if you talk about like enterprise level, you need that kind of credibility that those mom and pop shops don't need. So it depends on what you're trying to sell. It depends on what your product is, what your service is, and how much scale you want to go up.
Yeah. So why I asked this question specifically is that I know a lot of marketers who reach out to me and say, look, I don't have a website. I don't have a flashy website. I just have only, an Instagram page or a Facebook account. Now, how do I go about building the website? And without it, I can't do my business. So there is something that I just wanted you to address, because is it a necessity? Is it something that without which you can't really operate as a marketer, as an exporter, any which way that? Because today you have so much of platforms, but what your answer is, maybe you can start off with any of these free platforms, but eventually building a website would be the right thing for you to do. Am
Yeah,
I?
and yes, I want to follow up. So when we talk about a website, like you said, people think flashy, flashy website that has sliders and all of that, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be really simple. It can be all text. I'll give an example. If you have time, Google for Wa- Warren Buffett's website. So everyone knows Warren Buffett, the investor, and he has Berkshire. That's his investment company. Go to his website. It's all text. There's not a single image. This is a multi-billion-dollar company, but everything you want to find is there on that website. So it doesn't have to be flashy. It can be just text, but make sure all the information is there. Make sure it's simple enough for your users. That's all you need. You don't need Flash, you don't need sliders, you don't need a lot of images.
Right, fantastic. Because that's a myth I wanted to break. Flashy websites are not mandatory. What you need is a platform for you to disseminate the information that you want to reach out to your customers.
Yeah.
Viewers, I am again reminding you, please send in questions. I'm sure you will have a lot. It's a unique opportunity. Catch up this gentleman, Mr. Nadheera Udawatthe, all the way from Canada. And yeah, I mean, we have Sri Lankans all around the world, and I think the Future Ready Marketer is one platform. We are bringing in so much of the Sri Lankan expertise back home through the virtual world. So yes, this is your opportunity. Don't regret. Send in your questions so that we can ask Mr. Udawatthe in terms of what his explanation is. Now, Nadir, I
Arus,
just want, yeah,
just to interrupt, there are some questions in the
yeah,
Q&A. Do we
okay.
address them?
Yeah, we should look at it. I mean, we'll start off with that. So it's just that Damsit, if you could please send in. Okay, that's fine. I can just see the visual. Sorry. All right. So let's start off with that. Um,
And
will the
we
first one? Yeah. So
and
the
we
question
actually
is.
answered some of them. I think next one, before you came in, I answered I think 3 to 4 questions.
Yeah. So let me just. You can take up something that
Yeah.
you haven't
So yeah,
answered.
so that I haven't is how to decide what variables to be tested.
Okay.
Okay. So what variables? I think by variables you're talking about the metrics or what conversions to test. So there are so many things. So based on your campaign, if it's a campaign ad on Facebook or Instagram or on Google, you can test for click rate. That's what most basically everyone tests for in a campaign. But when you come to your website, you can do more things, like you can still test for click rate, but you can test for deeper events like application starts or um, application submits. In that, I call like a cart ad. If you have a product you're trying to sell, it can be a cart ad and then the sale in the end. But what happens is it gets complicated when you're trying to optimize for that lower level conversions, like deeper level conversions. The numbers become a little bit lower when you go down the funnel. But I would always recommend, if you have enough traffic, if you have enough sales, to optimize for that deeper conversions, because in the end you don't want more clicks, you want more people buying your product or finding your information or reading your blog. So try to always optimize for that deeper level, like the goal you want them to achieve on your website. And if you don't have traffic, of course, go back into a micro conversion, like a cart ad or a application start or something like that in the beginning of the funnel. So it depends on how much traffic you have, but always try to go for the main KPIs on your website.
Yeah, thank you, Nadira. So I think that makes it very clear. So since you have been answering questions before I joined in, I would like to continue to see what if you could take up another question on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next we have what's your advice for a junior marketer? Good question. Yeah, because I've been there before. I've been a junior marketer before, and I wish I had this advice when I was at that level. Um, and my advice is to learn analytics. It's a big one because there's a lot of data now. Unlike traditional marketing, there's a lot of data in digital marketing. There are the impressions, click rates, view throughs. You can segment that by very different segments. Example, in Facebook, you get so many different segments. in Google, you get so many different segments, and even in your own website, you can create your own audiences. If you know tools like Adobe Audience Manager, that lets you create your own customer audiences, that lets you segment your performance by all of these different audiences. It can be basic audience like mobile versus desktop. It can be very deeper, like frequent buyers or frequent visitors to your website, or it can be like by their income level. Um, we have all of those capabilities in digital marketing compared to traditional. So learn analytics and try to uh, dig deeper into analytics and find insights. So that's that can help you when you're trying to improve the conversions on an ad or on your website. It really helps when you know more insights. So
Yeah.
learn digital marketing is my
Yeah.
single advice. Yeah,
Thanks, Nadir. I think it's advice that's really that's really can go a long way. Now, you said to learn digital marketing,
digital
learn
analytics
digital
and
analytics.
yeah,
Can you recommend a few sources? I mean, or maybe is
yeah,
there anything top of your mind for where marketers can go in, maybe even learn for free? You
yeah,
have can some recommendation on that?
yeah. But the best place that's free also is Google Analytics certification. So they have a bunch, like I think 3 courses that covers what analytics is, like what are basic metrics, what are dimensions, what are segments, how to use Google Analytics, and all of that in one course. It's freely available. So Google for Google Analytics certification, and you can also go through the whole course and get that certification that you can post on LinkedIn or add to your resume. That'll be very valuable when you go for an interview.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good advice because marketing education doesn't have to always come at a cost,
Yeah,
especially with the whole one of the biggest benefit the pandemic brought in is that you have so much of new free way of learning what you want to learn. So don't forget, Google is a good place to go and learn digital marketing, and especially in line with advice of Nadira, learn digital analytics. So thank you, Nadira, for that very informational kind of insights that you shared. So shall we move to another question, Nadira,
yeah,
from the list? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so next, um, I have. Okay, I think I missed a couple. So could you look at lead generation ads on FB, also in practice, in conversion rate optimization? So yes, the same principles applies. So look at your data, look at your competition, and try small things like changing your copy in your call to action in your Facebook ads as well. It's the same principles. Use this, follow the same process, and you can optimize your ads. There are what's easier is you don't need a tool like Adobe Target or Optimizely or Google Optimize. In Facebook, they have their own A/B testing capability, so use that to the maximum. And there are a lot of education that you can get from Facebook itself. It can even be on Google. They have their own A/B testing capability, and you can get all of those information from Facebook and Google or whatever the platform you are advertising on.
Right. So there's another question, Nadira, which says, what kind of trends can we expect in the near future? From Nimesh, what would be the real trends that we should look out for in the future on digital marketing?
I think what we're seeing, one of the trends we have already seen is simplification. So making your websites or your platforms simpler. Um, uh, it can be just from graphics. If you have seen, Google has moved into this flat design. Uh, it could be flat design, but it could also be simplifying your information, just giving only the right amount of information needed, like just the right information, not too much, not too less. That's a trend. And then I'm also seeing like one of the trends that we are moving into as digital is voice-based services. If I've seen now, I've seen examples where you can, buy stocks using voice, something like Google Voice or Alexa. So this
Right.
is where we will go into more, and it is just like a website. You can still improve these voice devices, or you can still say, what kind of answer will lead to a sale. You can still optimize using the same concepts, and that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Right. Okay. So thanks, Nadira, for that. Another question. I'm not too sure whether you've taken this up before from Archini. For a personal blog, do you have any suggestions to improve it to the next level?
For a personal blog, uh, now one of the mistakes that a lot of bloggers do is using irrelevant metrics. Now, like let's say some say, in general, everybody says bounce rate is bad. But for a personal blog, you want someone to come frequently and read your latest blog and leave. Bounce rate is not a good metric. So try to find the right metric for your blog. If you want them to read more content, then make sure you have those other blogs linked in the same at the end. So it's more like cross selling in a product sale website. You're trying to cross sell. In your blog, you're trying to cross sell the other blog posts. um, and to improve, try different things like headline, like the starting paragraph, and subscribe buttons. You can try different copy, try different colors. So same concept that we talked about. Try different things and find out if something works than the other. And if you have, it all depends on your traffic. If you have a lot of traffic, you can do um, some more fun things like A/B testing. But if you don't have enough traffic, try different things and find out how your readers react to it, and then find if that works. Another thing with blogs is like you write to get traffic, from Google, from other platforms. So how it gets posted on social media matters a lot. So one of your key things will be your headline, and that first meta paragraph that comes on social when you share it. So make sure that's perfect, and you can test different things to go on that and the headline to get more clicks into your blog and to get more people to read.
All right, perfect. I know, Nadira, you did answer a very question earlier about what's your advice for a junior marketer. There's another advice that has been asked. What is your career advice for a person who has just started a digital marketing course? How would you approach that question? What would be our advice?
Okay, so career advice will be to uh, I think there is a lot of potential. So this one says
Since,
career
who has started a digital marketing
digital
course?
marketing course. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of demand for digital marketing in future. We are seeing it right now, but in future too. I would say if you're good at it, it depends on whether you like it. If you like math, if you like statistics, specialize in analytics and optimization, because not a lot of people can do it. There is going to be a lot of demand in future everywhere. It depends. It's not specific to Sri Lanka. It's not specific to Canada. Everywhere, there's going to be a lot of demand for this data driven marketing. And I would say make sure, like in my advice for the junior marketer, get familiar with data, and if you can, specialize in analytics, because that gives you an edge over someone who just knows digital marketing, placing ads, running ads. But if you can really bring insights from that, that's going to be more valuable.
All right, perfect. I think another question. I think again, this is something you wouldn't have taken. How important is it to get the look and feel, which is design, element right, and how could you get it right, and how would you strike a balance? I know it can be a very detailed question, but in a summary, how would you answer to this?
Yeah, like I explained before, this is one of the challenges that we have in analytics and optimization. Like, how do we improve sales while keeping into the brand guidelines? So, uh, primarily, we should try to, stay with brand guidelines. So, build a like a guideline or like a framework that you want to stick to with the look and feel, and also collect what you can and cannot do in terms of technology. Like sometimes, I'll give an example. Something like a sticky CTA might not be possible with the platform you're using in your website. Uh, so make sure it's possible before you run a test. And in terms of look and feel, strike a balance between brand guidelines. No, sometimes it's okay to even challenge brand guidelines. Um, let's say I'll give a very small example. Like let's say we have a red button and a gray button. If gray brings you 300% more traffic, you can go into brand team and say, uh, you know, why are we giving up on, $500,000 worth of sales? By sticking to red, why not we adapt gray also as a brand color? You can challenge. I would say I highly suggest challenging brand guidelines. It's uh, if in the end you're doing the right thing, if you're bringing right performance.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point because you have to always challenge your status quo. I mean, if there's no harm to your brand, and if it is going to be beneficial in some way, bringing in more people, bringing in more revenue, why not you adopt? Today, we are in a business world that we call it the VUCA world. Everything is so volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So the best solution, the best formula for this is agility, and I'm sure you would agree with me if I say that, Nadheera. So I think in line with that, how do you keep a digital approach? How do you keep the digital approach to be more agile? How can organization keep things adapting? Because one of the biggest barriers when you are to take over a very digital based transformation in your organization is to say that, look, there is a lot of infrastructural development and you have to put a lot of money, and then it's going to take a long while to recover. Now, what's your view? Do you really consider digital marketing, digital infrastructure is that much expensive? What's your view? Oh, it's just a myth.
I think it's just a myth that comes from those flashy websites we talked about. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be uh, flashy as websites are. It has to do your simple thing for your customer to find the right information and buy the product or the service, use the product or the service. It has to be simple, and this is where we get into like uh, the com the the complications where we are trying to add more things. My computer has this really nice slider, I want that. That that's not what you should do. If you think a slider is good, you should test that. But uh, by using insights, that's the expensive things come from all of those guesswork that we that I explained in the beginning. um, can we have this, can we have that? But test all of that. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it might not. Keep your website really simple. You don't need expensive platforms. You don't need expensive application platforms. You can have a very simple website that brings you really good sales. And every other idea in every other platform, expensive graphics that you bring in, test it first. It can work, it might not work.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So I think Yeah, the message is that speak to people who knows, speak to people who can teach you simplicity against complexity, and you don't have to really face the lot of challenges or maybe criticism, saying that the marketing is very expensive. And just one last thought, maybe how should marketers adopt to the current way of business that is evolving? We know the pandemic, everything has changed. The speed has accelerated its pace over the last year, year and a half. Now, what is your advice? How should you see marketers adopt or change, especially in the digital marketing space, in line with the new norm or new way of working?
Um, I think it's the same for like any other carrier. Like stay on top of the new developments. Like read a lot, I would say. Uh, and it's not reading on a reading a case study or something, but just read on Twitter or Facebook. Read about what your customers, potential customers might look for in a website. There are a lot of insights you can find if you just search for your brand on social media. So my one advice is to keep on top of the user's experience, is to read a lot about what people say about your product, about your website. uh, Find out what they are looking for, what they don't like, and then change, be agile and change based on what people say, and use your data to well validate that. Use your data to find out, if someone's saying your website is taking a long time to load, is it really true? You can find out using page load time in Google Analytics. uh, and if that's right, take action immediately. So uh, read and validate your assumptions, and then test and be agile, and you can win.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nadheera. There was an interesting conversation. Unfortunately, I couldn't join the first part, but nevertheless, I still learned a lot in talking to you. I know there are few more questions. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now. And then we will meet sometime soon. Until then, I'll have to remind you that we have our next session that is on 9th September, same time, same place. Why marketers should drive digital transformation. Very much connected to today's topic. And this is by a very special guest speaker who is the Asia Pacific CMO lead at Microsoft. That who will be talking to you, Stacy Saya. Is who's going to talk to you next week. So stay tuned. Join us next week with the Future Ready Marketer. And until then, stay safe. Take care of
Before I go, I need to
yourself. Thank
thank
you very much, Nadheera.
I want to thank Tilanka for getting me here, and then Arus for organizing all of this. And we had the best team at FE's 2013. And I want to thank Damsit for organizing all of this, all the infrastructure. Good job, Damsit, and Isuru for coordinating all of this. And thank you very much. Anyone else I forgot? And
Thank you
if
very
you
much.
have any more questions, please reach out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nadheera. Once again, thank you, Slim, the membership team, the marketing team, the president, Council Exco, who's putting all the work, hard work behind the scenes. So thank you very much. As always, Slim, committed for your national prosperity of the country. We will be meeting you soon. Until then, take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Good evening.